these BougeRV flexible CIGS panels. Each one is 200 watts, and they already have tape on them to stick them to the roof, so they're really good for little guy max trailers. But the even better thing is they're actually a new technology where each cell is like wired in parallel. So even if this gets like three quarters shaded, it's still producing power, which is great to have on a camper when you want to park. You know, sometimes you're going to be in a little bit of shade, so you can count on these panels to continue to produce power, even if they're a little bit shaded. So that's cool. Okay, I've deconstructed my inverter bay where I have my multiple Lithionics batteries installed, and this is my bus bar wiring for all my batteries and my inverters. But anyway, I am installing a separate 200 watt solar panel. So I've taken this all apart. I'm doing a number of things in my inverter bay battery compartment. But anyway, so I want to show you what I'm doing with the solar. I've drilled a hole to go up into the coach so I can bring my solar wires down and hook them to my bus bar. And those wires, that hole is right there in the floor. And I'm going to be installing this little small 75 volt, maximum 75 volts and 15 amps of output. I'm going to be putting it right here inside of my, this is where my fire extinguisher hole is, right at the step. So I'm going to install it right inside there and run my two sets of wires, the one for the solar panels coming up through the hole, and the one hooking to the battery or hooking to my positive bus bar going back down. And I'll be using 30 amp circuit breakers, so I'll come back in and show you how I'm doing all that. Okay, now I've hooked up my solar controller to my positive and negative bus bars on my Victron Lynx Power In bus bar system. So that connection is done. Okay, I got the solar controller installed inside my TV cabinet. And I've got the wires pulled up from my bus bar system, my battery bus bar system. So now I'm going to connect them, and I'm going to be using a ferrule for the on the end that goes into the solar controller, and I'm going to use a 1/2 inch 10 gauge connector to put it on my circuit breakers. I'm using a circuit breaker as basically as an on and off switch to turn the solar panel power off, and then I'll be using a second circuit breaker to actually protect the wires for the power coming out of the solar controller. So let me get on with hooking all that up, and I'll be back. Okay, I actually had to remove the solar controller to get my ferrules in, because the terminals on this Victron small solar controller, they're rectangular and not square. So when I do my crimping, when I do my 10 gauge, and 10 gauge is like the max these are going to accept. So when I use my 10 gauge ferrule, the crimper makes it square. So I had to take a pair of needle nose pliers and squeeze it on one side to make it more of a rectangular shape so I could get it slid into the terminals on this. So right now I've made my battery connection, my plus and minus battery connections, and now I'm going to pull my solar wires, my 10 gauge solar wires from the roof down here to this so I can hook it up with the 30 amp circuit breaker to use as a switch to turn the solar panel power off and on. So this will be a good setup for a 200 watt solar panel that I'll be putting on the roof. It's a new technology. It's made by BougeRV. It's called a CIGS panel. And it actually puts out a good amount of power, even if it's shaded. So I wanted to install a separate controller so I could test it and see how that's all, see how that compares to my 400 watts of just standard. In my case, I have Renogy glass panels. So anyway, so I'll get on with my installation. Okay, so now I've got my solar controller installed. I have my two 30 amp circuit breakers. I use 10 gauge wire because the solar panels only put out about 8 amps incoming, and then the outgoing is about 12.5 amps, 13 amps. So 10 gauge is good for 30 amps, so that's perfect. So this is done, and the next thing I need to do is go up and pull my wires down for the solar panels. Okay, in my 2014, I had a panel across this opening above the pantry door, and it's just stapled with small staples from the inside, so it's very easy for you just to push it or hit it with tap it with a rubber mallet and push this panel out, and it looks like this. Looks like that. So once you remove that panel, you see you have a really huge, deep space that you could use for additional storage stuff if you wanted, kitchen stuff. But in the back is all the solar pre-wire coming down from the roof. So I am going to see where I want to drill down through the roof for my new solar panel. And then I also have over here, I removed my microwave and installed a smaller microwave when I put in my isotherm refrigerator because it's taller and larger. It's about 7.5 cubic feet as compared to my old Dometic. So I removed my old microwave and replaced it with a smaller 0.9 cubic foot microwave. This is a Toshiba with a turntable. So now I also have this space where I can come down through the roof. But basically what I'm trying to do is my solar controller is at the end of my TV cabinet by the door. So I want to come down through the roof with my new solar wire and run it down next to the refrigerator. Basically run it down the refrigerator wall, down here below my drawers. Below my TV cabinet drawers. So then I can pull the wire, my cable, into the TV cabinet and then just run it over there to the end and hook it into the solar controller. So I will get on with that and figure out what we're going to do. I ran my snake from up in the microwave cabinet and was fortunate enough to hit this hole. So that's good for pulling my solar cable up. And here's the hole that I went down with my snake. So basically that hole is directly above the hole that I pulled out in the TV cabinet. So I'm having a good day. Okay, so I have my solar controller right behind this. I have my fire extinguisher on magnet, so it's very easy to pull off. And then I have my solar controller right there. So basically I am running, just have to run the wire from the light at the end of that view down to the end of my cabinet, and I can hook my solar up. All right, there's my wire. Now I got to figure out where I want to drill through the roof, and I'll be ready to move up. All right, so I drilled a pilot hole about 4 inches from the back corner. So now I'm going to go on the roof and see where it came out. Okay, so my drill bit came up in a perfect place because I'm going to be using this white cap to cover it, so that's going to be perfect. All right, so that came out exactly where I need it to be. So then this whole area is free now for me to put in my solar panel. And here it is over here. So it's 83 inches long by 23 inches wide. This is a BougeRV CIGS panel. It's a new design panel that gives you shading, that gives you power, even if it's like nearly 75% shaded. So I'm interested to see how it compares to my 400 watts of glass solar panels in terms of production in the shade. There's my hole. It's about 3/8 of an inch. My 10 gauge wire fits down perfectly. I used my small step bit. So now I'm just going to go down back under and drill up from inside to clear the hole. Okay. My solar wire is run up through the roof. Easy peasy. Okay, and there's my wire through the roof. Okay, so my next step is to clean this area thoroughly, and the way I do that is I'll probably just use Windex because it's not very dirty. But if it had like a lot of mold and mildew, I would use Zep mold and mildew to clean it. And I also take a Mr. Eraser pad with me so I can just smooth out any, if there's tree sap or any kind of rough spots, just to make it nice and smooth. So preparing it for the new BougeRV CIGS 200 watt panel that already has adhesive tape. So it already has adhesive tape all over it. So once I get this side of the roof clean, I can just go ahead and stick it on. Okay, I've got my area all clean. I've also treated the area with my 3M adhesion promoter. So I am ready to lay down my panel. Okay, so I've peeled back the strips a little bit more. And so I'm just going to keep rolling it forward and peeling it and sticking it at the same time. Okay, I have it down. Now, I'm going to take a Turnabond tape and I'm going to line the edges because my roof gets really dirty here in the south, it gets loaded with pollen and pine straw and all kinds of stuff. You know, particularly throughout the winter. So I'm going to seal my panel around the edges with the Turn-A-Bond tape, so it's just easier to keep clean and I don't have to worry about gunk getting under it and, you know, causing any kind of, you know, problems. Anyway, so I'm going to get on with that. Okay, I've got my new solar wire all secured, so I can put my microwave back anytime I want. And now I'm going to get on with connecting the solar controller. Okay, so I am now hooking up I'm making my PV panel voltage connections. I already made my battery connections. So, and that's the only one I'm going to make. I'm not using the load. You can hook like an individual thing and the solar controller could power it, but we're not using that. I'm just using it for a battery charger, solar battery charger. So I put a ferrule on the end of my negative wire, and then I'm going to be connecting the positive to this I'm going to be connecting the positive to this circuit breaker. I've already connected this circuit breaker. That goes to the battery for the battery connection. And I'm using this, I'm actually using a circuit breaker. You really only need a switch for solar panels because they're all fused up at the panel. But I like a circuit breaker for an on-off switch. Plus it gives you, you know, an added protection of the circuit breaker for the wiring. So let me get on with that. Okay, I've put a number 10 connector on this 10 gauge wire. And now I'm going to put it back here on the circuit breaker terminal. I'm going to need 2 hands. So I'm just going to put it here on the circuit breaker terminal and tighten it down. Okay, now I've made my last wire, which will go from the circuit breaker into the solar controller, PV positive. So I will go ahead and hook that up. Okay, so got everybody hooked up. And my circuit breaker's hooked up. So now, and I've marked my circuit breaker so I know which one is solar power and which one is the battery. So now I can go up and finish making my connections up on top. Okay, so I am actually crimping my own connectors on the end. You can see this is the positive, and that's a male, so I'm going to be using a female connector to so I can plug those two together. So I just need to strip this wire and crimp on that little crimper. And I actually bought the BougeRV crimping set. And this is what the crimper looks like. And basically you just put the jaws like that, and then you make the crimp. So I'll get on with that. First you have to thread on these 2 pieces. They just go like that. And you thread them on the wire. Like this. Okay, then you strip the wire back, and then I'll be putting on one of these larger connectors. So I'll come back and show you that. Okay, so there's my crimp. And then you just take your little connector and thread it on. Okay, now you want to pull it on until it clicks. Just like that. And then you Just twist this end on. You'll twist it all the way tight. I'll need 2 hands to do it. But you twist it all the way tight, just like that one. I'll come back. All right, so here's my connectors. I put some butyl tape in the hole because I always like to have like double protection that I would have any leaks. And then I'm going to be putting this cover over the hole, but I have to put double-sided tape around it. I'm going to stick it to the roof and then cover it with Dicor. So I'll get on with that. Okay, so I've got my negative hooked to my negative and my positive hooked to my positive. So this is all put together. Now I just need to put some Eternabond tape on these wires so they're more secure. And then over here, I actually think I'm just going to go ahead and cover this with Eternabond tape. Dicor is so messy. And I did stuff some more butyl tape in the end there just to make sure that stays good and sealed. So I will get my Eternabond tape out and finish this up. Now I will show you, if you ever get in a situation where you need to unclip these, like here, I really don't want that clipped in like that. So what you do is you take your tool, you just put your tool right in between, right like that. And then you can just pull them apart. It's a handy little tool. So now I'll get these organized and neatened up with some Eternabond tape and come back. All right, so I've got that all taped down. Got my solar wires secured. Okay, so all that is nice and secure on the roof. I don't have to worry about it. And I'm done up here. Okay. It's all done. It looks great. The thing that's really another real benefit with the solar panel is you can walk on it. It's virtually indestructible. I mean, if you watch on YouTube, people shoot it with a gun, put bullets through it, all kinds of crazy, drive over it, all kinds of things, and then put it out in the sun, and it's still producing its maximum wattage. So this I like that because I like to be able to walk on my roof and clean my roof every spring because it does get dirty over the winter. So that's another thing I like about it is I'll be able to walk on my roof, unlike my other solar panels where I basically left like a foot, where I could put my foot in between, but you have to be very careful walking basically the lanes or you could trip. So this is, going to give me quite a difference having a nice flat roof that I can walk on again. So even for people who use their roof, like sit on up here with chairs or anything else, you could put your chair on top of it. I mean, you can't hurt it. So anyway, so I'm done. Okay, so everything's hooked up, and it is time to get things going. All right, so the first thing you always do is you close the battery circuit breaker because you always want to hook up the battery. You want the battery to be attached before you hook before you turn on the solar panel power. And you can see the little blue light is flashing. So that connection is working. And then I will close the solar, and now the light went to solid blue. So this is all working, and I've got it all, got some zip ties in there holding the wire, you know, securing the wires and making sure that's all nice. So I'm done with this part. Now I need to go to settings. All right, so now I want to open my Victron Connect app on Bluetooth. All right, so down here at the bottom is my new Smart 7515. So I want to touch that. It wants me to pair, and to do that you type in 6 zeros. And now I hit update. Now some of the newer solar controllers actually come with a PIN number. So you have to make sure that you look for that because the 6 zeros, I think Victron has gotten away from the 6-0 default PIN code, and they're now giving everything a unique PIN code. Hit continue. All right, here's my little smart solar controller again. Okay, and it wants you to change the PIN code, so I'll do that. All right, now I'll hit the little cog up here. There's another update. And they are asking me, do I want instant readout? Yes, you want to enable it. Continue. And here it is down here at the bottom. Okay. I have the screen recorder on, so I have to keep moving that. Okay, so now we need to, you can see it's already producing voltage and 9.29 amps. That's good. So let's go up here to the cog and the 3 dots and go to product info. And I want to change the name to Sandy Flex Panel Solar Controller. Go back. Now I'm going to do my settings. So for the battery settings, we want this to be on 12 volts. This controller can handle a max output of 15 amps, so leave it on that. I want it to be on battery charger. I don't want it on factory default. I want to hit user defined. Then I want to hit expert mode. And I want my absorption voltage to be 14.4. I want my float voltage to be 13.4. I always like to change this equalization voltage to some very small number in case it ever gets turned on. It won't work. My rebulk is 0.1. I want maximum absorption time of 0 hours. In 30 minutes. And I want my absorption to absorption duration to be fixed to that 30 minutes. My tail current, I want that to be 10 amps. Like I said, I like to change this equalization stuff to nothing, just in case it ever, anything, you know, you hit a button by accident. Low temperature cutoff is disabled. I don't need any temperature compensation, so I'm going to put that on 0. Okay, so these are the settings for my Lithionics batteries. And, oh, I will set a low temperature cutoff. And I'm going to set it to 33 degrees. Okay, so these are the settings for my Lithionics batteries, so that's done. Now, I don't use, there's none of these other settings I don't use, so everything else I leave on default. So here we are. The batteries are on float, which is why there's 0 amps, because my batteries are fully charged and they don't need any current. So the battery, remember, the batteries tell the controller when to produce power. So it's producing voltage but no amperage, so the batteries aren't taking anything in. If I were to use the batteries down, then this number would change, and amps would be going to the battery, and the state would change from float to bulk charging. So everything's working, and I'm excited to compare them to my my glass solar panels, my 400 watts of glass solar panels, when I'm camping and I'm kind of in shade and I can see which panels are producing what. So there you have it.